Okay, so this is a fun one. Happy Thanksgiving early to everyone. Uh, so last week we talked about becoming aware that we're in awareness, and we're in awareness first before we're anything else. So awareness is, and awareness is our high connected, neutral self that is all loving, and it observes everything from a neutral space. And awareness does not require the mind or the intellect to um, observe and to have clarity and creativity. Whoa. Awareness is first, and then we become a human. Everyone's muted. So I don't know what is happening. So anyway, so awareness doesn't require the mind or the intellect, which is why we think it's hard. We have to become aware that we are in awareness. And last week's exercise was to stop and say, if there's no problem to solve, what is there? Basically, we turning off our, if we're looking at our job or something, we say, if I'm not solving that, what is there? What is there? And we connect with our awareness of being, which is our awareness of being, which is immersed in and surrounded by the great awareness, universal awareness, God awareness. So we come into this earth experience aware. And then, like we talked about before, we attach concepts and emotions and ideas to life experiences, and we have perceptions then about who we are and how we fit in the world, and right and wrong and black and white. Um, but our awareness sees with clarity and neutrality and creativity, endless options and opportunities. So our awareness is free from boundaries, free from the constraints of our teachings, etc. So and how we were created is to come here as an awareness, continue in the awareness, and work through the body and evolve into our highest and best self. But we turned it around and came in as an awareness, and then became an ego and a brain. And so that's what I'm talking about a little bit tonight. So, how the brain works to help us live is that it recognizes repetitive thoughts, actions, and feelings, and it hardwires the operating system to move automatically without conscious thought and deliberate choice. So, how we're made, if you think about it, like we go from a baby to like a little bit bigger baby and a toddler. And when we start to walk and we eat and different things like that, those movements and actions are repetitive, and we don't have to consciously choose them. So the brain's like, this is a repetitive action. I'm going to program it in so that this human can move on and evolve, free her up to move on to the next step, to evolve to the next place. And so driving, walking, learning a language, like all of that is the same. So this gift of programming is to allow us to move on to larger, more complex expressions of life. It allows us to let go of the simplicities and move into our what really moves us, our highest and best calling on this earth. So it frees us up. The brain in this process does not judge the action, the thought, the feeling, the repetition. It doesn't judge it as good or helpful or healthy or useful or harmful. It neutrally recognizes a repetitive process, a pattern, and it creates the hardwiring in the brain to do it automatically and free us up for moving on, right? So it's really a gift to the process. What doesn't feel like a gift is when we have spent time programming stuff that we don't want and that doesn't move in line with our awakened, high awakened soul, our high awakened heart presence. So the repetitive responses that are programmed in come from our perceptions of life, our experiences, our teachings, our community, our education. We make the choice. We make the choice. The brain makes the link, and boom, you have autopilot. So we make a choice about how we feel, how we handle, how we move through situations, and the brain follows through with the command. And there it is. So as we evolve through life, we attach to the concepts and ideas about things that are real only to us. So to me, it looks like boxes of data that we have in our mind about what things mean. And so when we look at that box, we have a automatic response oftentimes. And like an example might be like you're driving down the road and you look in your rearview mirror and you see a police car. Like, what's everyone's initial response? Some form of anxiety, a panic. Are they going to pull me over? But that's not true. Like, none of that is true. It's just a car driving behind you, right? But how you feel about that particular car driving behind you is your choice and your story, however it came to you, right? And we do the same thing with every aspect of our life. So say we have, now we're going into this great family relationship experience tomorrow. And, we have concepts and ideas, excuse me, of who we are, how we fit into the family, what the family thinks about us, and all of this kind of stuff. And which all of that stuff is only true for us as individuals. In our awakened state, as our open-hearted awareness, we are observing a neutral scene of people and dinner. It's neutral. How we feel about it, how we act, and how we respond is the choices that we've attached to that based on experience and perceptions and etc. So if we experience or live in the emotion of something long enough, we internalize it as meaning something about us. And when we look at that box, we auto respond. So I like the police car, or somebody who comes out of a really powerful, positive, generating family is going to be looking at family and having warm, loving, I can't wait to be there feelings, and somebody who comes out of a different family and has different experiences and perceptions that they are not good enough, or this is not a fun experience. When they look into that family box, they're going to feel emotion, this is not a good experience. And then they will behave in a way that will cause that to happen. Both scenarios. But the point is, in both scenarios, it's really what you believe and nothing more, right? So we can believe we have love and support, or we can believe it's not love and support. That's going to be the experience. But really, in the whole scheme of life, it is neutral. It is neutral. 10 people can look at the same scene and have a different perception of it. So as we become able to become aware of our awareness being, we can detach from these emotional concepts and ideas that we have about ourselves in these different areas, and we can begin to understand how we got there, and that a lot of it isn't real. And I'm not saying your experiences weren't real, but your perceptions about them can be whatever you want them to be. So another example is like a relationship, right? If you look in, you had a relationship, and it was a bad breakup, and like, say, cheating, like I can give my experience, and the entire experience of breaking up and finding out about the cheating had nothing to do with me, right? And it didn't say, and it doesn't say anything about me, right? Until I got this fact, though, I would look at the idea of another relationship and think, I don't really want to go through those feelings again. And I would immediately feel those feelings of disappointment and all of that. But then I realized this isn't mine to own. The actions of another person are just that, their actions and their choices. My response and opinion and feeling about myself is mine. And so then we begin to be more neutral about what is happening and making choices that are in line with the outcomes that we want, and not the outcomes that we had, or living with and carrying through garbage into our future. Because events come and go in our life, but it isn't personal. It isn't personal unless we want it to be, because our open-hearted awareness is completely immersed in divine love and universal awareness. So we are never less than that. It is what we attach to that we can then carry around with us, and then will begin to affect our life. So our brain is completely neutral in this process and its programming, and our awareness is completely neutral in its observing from state. So we actually really have clarity and intelligence and freedom without thought. And we, when we begin to drop into these boxes of history, is when density comes in and cloudiness. And we then no longer have clarity to see, because we are in a place of history. and we've narrowed our scope of vision down to a historical experience instead of expanding into a neutral awareness, a neutral awareness of our clear divine self. And in the practice last week of if there's nothing to solve, what's here or who's here, right? In our thinking mind, we've trained our mind to boom, think and respond to everything. But our open-hearted awareness, our awareness of our divine soul and our divine life, doesn't need validation from a thought. And this is like the fun, challenging part, because our highest and best self, our open-hearted awareness of our free divine self is and observes. So if you look out on a scene of, like, for example, I have a really pretty flower here. It's a beautiful flower, right? So your open-hearted awareness can see, appreciate, and enjoy the flower without saying, that's a pretty pink flower. That's the brain. So our awareness of who we are doesn't need to validate itself through a thought conversation. We see and observe with intelligence and clarity without a conversation. And the conversation will come out of the brain trying to fulfill the job we've given it of talking and telling all the time. So practicing throughout your day as you're going down the road, that's a beautiful sunrise. You don't have to say that. It is a beautiful sunrise, and you can be in that presence without speaking. It doesn't, divine life doesn't require us to speak about something that is obviously there, right? It's a big stretch, I know. I'm off. But I practiced this, and at first I said, oh my gosh, is it possible to not have a thought? And I thought, oh, I don't know how I can do that. And then I went again and I observed, and it was like like smoke was coming out of my ears and the pipes were banging, and then all of a sudden there was a separation, and I am and not thinking, not validating my observance with words from my brain. And it's a very freeing place because the mind settles down, it softens, it can relax into the body, back into the job that it was created to do. And the observance is clarity, it's peace, it's a homecoming. It feels like home, like I have arrived home within my presence. I see with clarity, and the opportunities are endless. The awareness stretches, right? The thoughts compress, the awareness stretches. So we begin to live in an open-hearted awareness within the great awareness. It's a different way of saying it. And we don't need, we can live in intelligence, clarity, and knowing, in our open-hearted awake state. We don't need the to observe with thought what is happening. And so we begin to separate from the gripping intention, the constant movement of the thinking mind and the conversation inside the head. And as we spend time steeping in our awakened state of love and awareness, then the concepts, ideas, that we've attached to about aspects of life, family, relationships, job, whatever isn't part of that open, loving state of awareness will begin to soften, and will drift, will fade away. It's like muscle, thought, emotion, muscle tensioning in our brain and body, and that will, steeping in our open-hearted awake state, will release that, those points of tightness and those points of knottedness in our energy, being, and in our energetic state, so that we enter into the freedom, clarity, homecoming, unconditional love state that we are living in anyway. Our awareness always was, always will be. We don't have to go find it. It's here already. We have to become aware of it. And it does not happen through the intellect or the thinking mind. It happens through the heart, opening the heart and becoming aware. So that's my lesson for tonight. Please unmute if you'd like and comment.
I missed the last part because you froze.
I froze.
And then
where did I leave? Where did I leave?
I reconnected. I don't know. Like,
where did I leave off?
We're like, and then you froze. Like, I don't know.
Oh, did I freeze for everybody?
I don't
Not
think
for
so.
me.
No, it was just for a minute. I think my computer disconnected and reconnected.
Do you remember what was the last thing I said?
Of course not. Why would I remember that? It was like a minute. It was like the last minute.
Oh, well, I was saying that we operate with intelligence, clarity, and knowing in our open-hearted awake state, and we don't need to validate or observe with our thoughts. We're separate from our thoughts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We don't have to translate what we're seeing and feeling into our thoughts, like word thoughts.
Right. Yeah, because we tend to, we're so organized about translating through our thinking mind, and not, and sort of putting our awareness in a package of introspection or something, but it is really who we are. And then the thinking mind is, it has its purpose. and stuff, but we've put all of our eggs in that basket, and then we just tap into our, if we're even fortunate to know that we are an awareness outside of our existence experience, like we don't need our senses to exist. We are aware without them and stuff. Like we're
Yeah, they're
aware.
gonna be going on strike tomorrow with signs and everything, marching about.
It's different. It's a lot, I know, but in the practice, of, if there's nothing to solve, if my brain doesn't need to do a job, what's here? What's here right now? And it's, if you go, well, your brain will be going, but there has to be something for me to do, and it will throw up another problem or another thing you're thinking about. But if you just keep, if there's no problem to solve, what is there? And you will land into an awareness of you that is nothing to do with the perceptions, concepts, ideas, problems of your life that you perceive are in your life or that you're solving or any of it. And then from that place, which is very limited, a very small box, we expand everything expands to have no boundaries. And we begin to see without emotion. We see with neutrality life, because the emotion is a response of the thought, concept, and idea that we've attached to that situation. We created it through our repetitive thoughts, repetitive emotions, repetitive responses. So we come into awareness, we understand that, and that loving awareness allows us to deconstruct that. And we can become back to our more natural, loving place that we live from, and observe life and make decisions from expanse, clarity, and neutrality.
A work in progress.